a decrease of 4 in terms of contact sexual offenses. Then with robbery, with aggravating circumstances, the 346 increase that we are observing is made up of a decrease of carjacking of 378 counts less, an increase of 261 in terms of robbery at residential premises, a decrease of 740 of robbery at non-residential premises, and the 3 crimes that we are seeing here are termed the trio crimes, and collectively they resulted in a decrease of 857 counts less. That is a 5.2% decrease compared to the previous comparable quarter. We had the same number of robbery of cash in transit as in the previous quarter, that is 60 in both the quarters. Then we had 1 more count of robbery of bank robberies, and we had 9 counts less of truck hijacking compared to the previous period, whereby we had 508, currently we had 499. Then using the 2021 mid-year population estimates to compute per capita of the contact crimes, for murders, we had 10.1 per 100,000. For rapes, we had 15.1. In terms of the attempted murders, we had 9.7 per 100,000, 61 per 100,000 in terms of assault GBH, 67.6 in terms of common assault, and then in terms of common robbery, 18.6 per 100,000. Then continuing with the table, we had a decrease in terms of arson of 90 counts less, and we also had a decrease in terms of malicious damage to property of 357 counts less. Then the combined of contact-related crimes decreased by 447, a 1.6% decrease. Then for property-related crimes, we had decreases across all the 5 crimes that make up property-related crimes, led by burglary at non-residential premises, a decrease of 575, followed by a decrease of 2,830 in terms of burglary at residential premises, a decrease of 254 in terms of theft of motor vehicle and motorcycle, then a decrease of 273 in terms of theft out of or from motor vehicle, another decrease of 175 in terms of stock theft, and the total of the property-related crime decreased by 4,107. That is a 4.5% decrease. For other serious crimes, we had a decrease in terms of all theft not mentioned elsewhere of 1,087, and we had increases in terms of commercial crimes of 4,503, and another increase in terms of shoplifting of 2,110, and the total of the other serious crimes increased by 5,518. Then the total 17 community reported crimes increased by 7,855, a 2.2% increase. Then crime detected as a result of police action, whereby the desired direction of change is an increase. We had recorded increases across all the crime detected as a result of police action, starting with illegal possession of firearm and ammunition, 203 counts more compared to the previous comparable quarter. Drug-related crimes, we had a 5,801 increase. In terms of driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs, 1,006 increase. Then sexual offenses detected as a result of police action, 506 increase. And the total of crime detected as a result of police action increased by 7,516. Then looking at the months and the provinces that make up the quarter, for the 17 community reported crimes, we had an increase of 4,299 in the month of April. In the month of May, we had a decrease of 912. And then in June, we had an increase of 4,468. Then in terms of the provincial breakdown, the provinces of the Eastern Cape, we had an increase of 680 in terms of the 17 community reported crimes. Gauteng had an increase of 4,022, KwaZulu-Natal 2,658, Mpumalanga 754, Northern Cape 278, Western Cape 216, and then the province that contributed the most in terms of 17 community reported crimes was the province of Gauteng, which contributed 27.9, and the second highest was the Western Cape with 19.1. Then the top stations in terms of the 17 community reported crimes, I'll only mention the top 5. Number 1, okay, the first column indicates the station's position in terms of the crime that had been reported within that particular station when compared at the national level and ranked in terms of the highest to the lowest. However, we only end up to number 30. Then the second column indicates that particular the station at the provincial level. So taking, for example, the Cape Town Central, it is the highest number. It is the station number 1, meaning it had recorded the highest number of crimes both at the national and at the provincial level. However, it has recorded a decrease in terms of 36 counts less compared to the total number of 17 community reported crimes that had been reported in that particular station. In the previous year, they had 2,801, and in the current year, they had 2,765. Then number 2 at the national level, but number 1 at the provincial level is the Johannesburg Central, which had 190 counts more compared to the previous period. At number 3, we had Johannesburg Central, which is number 3 at the national level and number 1 within the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and it had recorded 185 counts more. Number 4, at the national level, we had Mitchell's Plain, and it is number 2 at within the Western Cape province, and we had recorded 117 counts. At number 5, we had Phoenix at the national level. However, it is number 2 within the province, and it had recorded 290 counts more. Then those make up the top 5 stations in terms of the 17 community reported crimes. Then going down to the contact crimes, these are the crimes that are made up of murder, sexual offenses, attempted murder, assault, GBH, common assault, common robbery, and robbery with aggravating circumstances bundled together. We had an increase in the month of April of 4,899, a decrease of 550 in the month of May, and an increase of 2,542 in the month of June. And the only province that recorded a decrease in terms of the contact crimes was the Western Cape with 127. All the other provinces recorded decreases. And then at the national level, we had an increase of 4.8% increase in terms of the contact crimes. Then the top 30 stations, again, the layout of the table, national, provincial, then the station name. We had the Johannesburg Central, that is being number 1 at the national and also provincial level in terms of Johannesburg Central. And then that particular station, it had recorded, just quickly check, it had recorded the same number of, it had recorded 154 counts compared to the previous comparable period. That is a 16.1% increase. Number 2 is Nyanga, which had recorded 965, which is the same as the previous comparable quarter. Mfuleni at number 3, which had recorded 142 counts more. Number 4, we had Devon Central, which had recorded 63 counts more. And then number 5, we had Tembisa, which had 96 counts more. Then when we look at the causative factors in terms of the selected crimes of murder, attempted murder, and assault GBH, we drew from a sample of 5,987 in terms of the murders. For attempted murder, we drew from a sample of 5,455. And then for assault GBH, we drew from a sample of 27,458. Now, focusing only on the murders, the causative factor that had been indicated the frequent number of times or the most number of times was arguments, misunderstanding, road rage or provocation, which was attributable to 793 of the murders. The second highest was mob justice or vigilantism, which was indicated to be the causative factor in 456 of the murders. Robbery was number 3 with 301, retaliation, revenge or punishment, 198, gang-related, 193, tax-related, 63, hijacking and attempts, 51, during the commission of other crime, not robbery or rape, 36, rape-related murders, 24, and then we also had 13 murders of law enforcement and security in the line of duty, but this 13 excludes the murders of police officials. Then looking at the places of occurrence for the three crimes, again from the same sample sizes, focusing only on the murder, the highest place of occurrence was in a public place, street, open field, recreation, which was attributable to 3,072 of the murders. The second highest was residence of the perpetrator or victim, including residents known by the victims, which was attributable to 1,685. Liquor outlets, that is shebeens and tavern, resulted in 243 murders. Spaza shops, 85 murders. Then we also had 9 of the murders which are indicated to have taken place at educational institutions, which include schools, universities, colleges, daycare center, daycare facilities. And that is the rest you can see from the slide as indicated. Then the selected contact crimes against women and children. On the left-hand side, we have the women, that is 18 years and above. We had an increase of 40 counts more in terms of murders of women, 238 counts more of attempted murders, 1,138 in terms of assault GBH. Then on the right-hand side, we had selected crimes against children, that is both boys and girls between the ages of 0 and 17, an increase of 50 counts more in terms of the murders, 47 counts more in terms of attempted murders, and a reduction of 92 in terms of assault GBH in terms of crimes against children. Then looking at the total murder that had been reported to the police, again looking at the breakdown in terms of the months, we had an increase in the month of April of 248, then 2 decreases in the month of May and June of 267 and 177 respectively. And the only 2 provinces that recorded increases in terms of the murder was the province of Mpumalanga and the Northern Cape, the increases of 19 and 9 respectively, and all the other 7 provinces recorded decreases, and overall in the country we had a decrease of 196 in terms of the body counts, and then a reduction of 3.1%. Then looking at the per capita in terms of the murders that had been reported to the police, the Eastern Cape has the highest per capita murder of 17.1 per 100,000. KwaZulu-Natal, the second highest with 13.5 per 100,000. Western Cape, number 3 with 12.8 per 100,000. Gauteng at number 4 with 9.1 per 100,000. Free State, 7.7 per 100,000. Mpumalanga and the Northern Cape both had 6.8 per 100,000. Northwest, 5.5 per 100,000. And at number 9, it's Limpopo with 3.3 murders per 100,000 of the population. Then this one is simply a graphical representation of what we had seen as the trend in the previous slide. And these are the sizes of the population in the provinces that we had indicated. The Western Cape, population in terms of the 2021 mid-year population estimates at a total population of 6,653,168 people. And then the color codes here indicates whether the province has recorded a decrease or an increase, the green indicating the decrease and the red indicating an increase, and the size of the bubble indicates the per capita murder for that particular province. Then the top 5 stations in terms of murder, number 1 and 2 are both in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. That is Inanda at number 1 and Umlazi at number 2. Number 1, that is Inanda at 15 more murders compared to a previous period. However, Umlazi recorded a decrease of 21 murders compared to the previous quarter. Then the next 3 stations are in the province of the Western Cape, led by Delft, Gugulethu, and Harare. Delft recorded a decrease of 1, and Gugulethu and Harare recorded increases of 16 and 8 respectively. Then those are the top 5 stations that make up the top 80 stations. Then the provincial breakdown in terms of the causative factors for murders. This time around, we try to look at the province that recorded the highest number of causative factors for that particular causative fact. For arguments and misunderstanding, KwaZulu-Natal was the highest, with 255 of the murders attributable to arguments and misunderstanding. The second highest was the Western Cape with 154. Vigilantism and mob justice, again, the province of KwaZulu-Natal was the highest with 116. The second highest was Gauteng with 95. Then jumping to gang-related murders, whereby we had 193 murders attributable to gang-related. The province of the Western Cape recorded the highest with 166. The second highest was Gauteng with 15. Then in terms of taxi-related, we had 63 murders that were attributable to taxi-related murders, whereby the highest province was Gauteng with 32, and then the second highest was the Western Cape. Then the third highest was the KZN with 9 murders attributable to taxi-related. And that the rest of the causative factors can then be seen from this particular slide. Then we also had instances whereby we had multiple people that were killed in one incident. We had 10 victims that were killed in one incident. That was in Taylor's Hold, whereby 10 men were burned alive when a group of gunmen burst into their home and ordered them to undress. They then doused them with an unknown substance and then set them alight. 8 of the people died on the scene and 2 later succumbed of their injuries in the hospital. That particular case resulted in 10 victims and 2 attempted murders. We also had another case in Plessis Liar, whereby 10 victims were killed in one incident. That was the 10 were family members that were shot dead at home, 7 female and 3 males by 2 unknown gunmen. It was a case of a suspected witness elimination. That particular case also resulted in 3 counts of attempted murder. Then we also had a mass shooting where it resulted in 8 victims who were between the ages of 20 and 40 were shot dead in the Cleveland hostel, and that also resulted in 4 attempted murders. Then we had 3 cases whereby there were 6 victims each in each incident. 6 people were found dead, 4 inside the house, 1 next to the gate, and the owner of the house was found dead not far from his house and is suspected to be involved in drug dealing and cable theft. 2 of the victims are female siblings aged 21 and 16. Then we also had 6 victims that were shot dead at Karabo fast food and liquor outlets. Then also 6 victims in Ocean View. The circumstances can be read there because it was a suspected case of a gang-related murder. Then looking at the weapon of choice that is most frequently used in the commission of the murders, we see that 2,756 people were killed with firearms, 862 were killed with knives, 462 with firearms, 224 blunt instruments, 135 body parts, stone and bricks, 103 incidents. Then we also had murders of police officials. In this current quarter, we had 31 police officials that were killed when compared to the 18 in the previous comparable quarter. That is 13 more police officers who were killed compared to the previous period. Of these 13 police officers that were killed, 21 were killed while they were off duty and 10 were killed while they were on duty. And across all the 3 months that make up the quarter, we had recorded increases in terms of the police murders. 2 counts more in April, 8 counts more in the month of May, and 3 counts more in the month of June. Then looking at attacks on the rural communities, we had 4 counts more of murder in terms of attacks on rural communities, sexual offenses, a decrease of 1, attempted murder, a decrease of 16, assault GBH, a decrease of 7, common assault, a decrease of 3, robbery with aggravating circumstances, a decrease of 26, and in total, we had a decrease of 49 of the contact crimes for attacks on rural communities. Then we also had a decrease in terms of rape and attempt of 1, then 1 count more of carjacking. Then we had a decrease in robbery at residential premises of 14, robbery at non-residential premises, a decrease of 6, and the trio crimes for attacks on rural communities, a decrease of 19. Then on the next slide, we go into the details in terms of the 14 people that were killed in terms of the farming community. Of these 14, 4 were employees at the farm, 1 in Eastern Cape, 2 in Free State, and 1 in KwaZulu-Natal. Then 5 of the people that were attacked in terms of the farming community were farmers, 2 in KwaZulu-Natal, 2 in the Western Cape, and 1 in Limpopo. 4 of the people that were murdered in terms of the farming community were farm dwellers, 2 in Free State, 1 in Limpopo, 1 in Mpumalanga, and 1 was a visitor. That make up the 14 counts of farming community murders, which resulted in 4 counts more. Then looking at the rapes, the month breakdown, we had 65 counts more in terms of rape in the month of April. We had decreases of 259 and 70 in the month of May and June. And the only provinces that recorded increases in terms of the rapes was the Free State and Gauteng, with Free State recording 43 counts more and Gauteng 1 count more. All the other provinces recorded decreases in terms of the rape, and the overall reduction in terms of the rapes was a 2.8% decrease. Then the top 5 stations of the top 30 for the rape stations, we had number 1 was Inanda, which recorded 8 counts more, Mthatha 24 counts more at number 2, Mankweng 6 counts more at number 3, KwaDukuza 8 counts more at number 4, number 5 is Umlazi with 5 counts more. And it is worth noting that Lusikisiki has moved from being in the top 3 to be at number 11 at the national level, and it has recorded a decrease of 30 rapes less compared to the previous comparable period. Then the per capita rapes, the size of the circle similar to the murders indicates the per capita rapes for that particular provinces, and the color codes indicates the direction of change, whereby the green indicates a decrease and the red indicates an increase. And again, the population of the respective provinces are indicated on the bottom left, on the bottom right corner, and that is from the mid-year population estimates of 2021 as obtained from Stats SA. Then looking at the places of occurrence for the rapes from the sample size of 6,254, most of the rapes are indicated to have taken place at the residence of the perpetrator or victim, including residences known by victims and perpetrators or family members, which 3,917 of the rapes were attributable to have taken place at such residences. The second highest was at public places, streets, open field, and recreational parks, which was attributable to 1,414 of the rapes. Then we also had rapes that had taken place in abandoned buildings, whereby 41 of these rapes were taking place at abandoned buildings, made up of 9 in the KZN, 8 in Gauteng. Then we had 6 of the rapes in Limpopo having taken place at the abandoned buildings. Then of the rapes that had taken place at educational institutions, we had 69, and the most of these were reported to have taken place in Gauteng province with 17, and then Limpopo and KwaZulu-Natal recorded the same number, that is 13, and then the fourth highest was the Western Cape with 8 counts. Then looking at the involvement and in terms of alcohol, starting with instances whereby alcohol and drugs were used during the commission, and then going to the specific places like where alcohol is being sold, we see that 274 of the murders were committed just when alcohol was involved, meaning that the perpetrator or the victims were using alcohol prior or during the commission of the murders. And then 19 of the murders was where the perpetrator or the victims were using drugs. Then 1,143 of the rapes, alcohol was involved. 54 of the rapes, drugs were involved. Assault GBH, 3,147, where alcohol was involved, and 82 where assault GBH, where drugs were involved. Then specific places where the murders or the crimes have taken place where alcohol is being sold, we had 243 murders taking place at confirmed incidents, where confirmed places where alcohol is being sold. And then we had 276 attempted murders at shebeens, taverns, pub, nightclubs, 66 rapes where alcohol is being sold, and 3,262 assault GBH where alcohol is being sold. Then in terms of the breakdown, looking specifically in terms of the educational premises in terms of murder and rape, we had 55 rapes having taken place at schools and 7 murders having taken place at schools. The orange color indicates the rapes, and then at the bottom is the place where the rape has occurred, whereas the blue indicates the murders, and the bottom indicates where the murders have occurred. We had 7 murders at schools and 2 murders at tertiary institutions. We also had 55 rapes at schools, 5 at special schools, and 3 at the tertiary. Then looking at the victims and the perpetrators in terms of the rapes or in terms of the murders at the educational premises, we tried to do this using a 3-way tabulation, whereby we first indicate the premises, like it's indicated that it's a tertiary, and then also a school. Then we also looked at the victims and the perpetrators. Of the 2 murders that had occurred at tertiary institutions, the victims were learners and also the perpetrators were learners. Then the murders that had happened at schools, we had 2 instances of murder where the victims were learners and the perpetrators were also learners. Then we had incidents where the perpetrator was unknown and 2 victims were learners. One was a security guard, the victim, and we also had unknown victims in 2 incidents. That make up the 9 murders that had taken place at educational institutions. Then this provides the breakdown in terms of in which province were these occurring. We had of the 55 rapes that had taken place at schools, 14 were in Gauteng, 12 were in KwaZulu-Natal, and then we had 10 in Limpopo. Then continuing with the three-way tabulation to try and identify who the victims and the perpetrators were of the rapes that had taken place at schools. Again, we tried to do this using a three-way tabulation, with the anchor variable being the premises where the rape has occurred, and then cross-tabulated the victims and the perpetrators. We had 37 counts of rape where the victims, the perpetrators were learners, and also the victims were learners. We had 2 cases where the perpetrators were strangers. 5 cases where the perpetrators were strangers and the victims were learners. Then we had 2 incidents or 2 cases where the teachers were perpetrators and the victims were learners. 2 security guards were perpetrators. Again, victims were learners. 1 acquaintance, 1 school personnel, and 2 perpetrators were not specified. In total, the victims where learners were victims were 50 incidents, and then the perpetrators are indicated on the perpetrator column there. Then going to special school, whereby the perpetrator were learners, we had 3 learners, and the victims were also 3 learners. Then a tertiary institution, one perpetrator was a student, and the victim was also a student. Then 1 perpetrator was an ex-boyfriend, and the victim was a student. And that makes up the breakdown in terms of the rapes that had taken place at the educational premises, indicating who were the victims and who were the perpetrators of the rapes. Then looking at the proxy for domestic violence, we also had instances whereby the perpetrators and the victims had some kind of a domestic relationship. Starting with the murders, we had 219 of the murders attributable to instances whereby the victims and the perpetrators had some kind of a domestic relationship, either ex-boyfriend, ex-husband, girlfriend, brother, sister, and uncle. And of these, 113 of the victims were female and 106 were male. And the highest number of domestic-related murders were reported to have taken place in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, with 70 of the murders attributable to domestic violence. Then we also had the second highest was the Eastern Cape with 37, and then the third highest was the Western Cape with 35. Then we also had 907 incidents of rape, where there was a domestic relationship between the victim and the perpetrator. And of these, 852 victims were female, and 55 of the victims were male. And again, the province of KwaZulu-Natal was the one which indicated the highest number of domestic-related rapes of 212. Then the second highest was the province of the Western Cape, which indicated 174 of the rapes as being domestic-related rapes. And the rest of the crimes can be seen from the table. Then we go to the subcategories of robbery with aggravating circumstances, starting with carjacking. For the 3 months making up the quarter, we had decreases in the month of April of 47, another decrease in the month of May of 245, another decrease in the month of June of 86 counts less, and the provinces that recorded increases in terms of carjacking was the province of Mpumalanga Northwest and Limpopo of 54, 40, and 9 respectively. The rest of the provinces recorded decreases in terms of carjacking. Then the top 5 stations in terms of carjacking are made up of Harare, Olivenhout-Bosch, Nyanga, Philippi East, and Proti. Those make up the top 5, and then the increases were recorded in Harare with 16 counts more, Olivenhout-Bosch 33 counts more, a reduction of 33 in Nyanga, another reduction of 6 in Philippi East, and then increase of 30 in Proti, making up the top 5 stations in terms of carjacking. Then the type of vehicle that is mostly likely to be hijacked was a sedan or a hatch or a coupe, whereby it was indicated to have been hijacked in 2,591 instances, buggies in 1,582, station wagon 335, minibus 280, motorbike 225. Again, this was from a sample size of 5,522 of the carjackings that had been reported to the police. Then robbery at residential premises, we had increases across the month of April, May, and June of 61, 13, and 181, and the only provinces that recorded decreases was the province of Limpopo with 99 counts less and the Western Cape with 35 counts less. The other provinces recorded increases. Then the top 5 stations in terms of residential robbery are led by Plessis Liar with 45 counts more, Inanda with 28 counts more, Tembisa with 49 counts more, Moffat View with 22 counts more, Roodepoort with 22 or 38 counts more. Those are the top 5 stations in terms of robbery at the residential premises. Then robbery at non-residential premises, we had decreases across all the 3 months, making up the quota of 300, 267, and 173 for the month of April, May, and June, respectively. And the only provinces that recorded increases was the province of Northwest with 50 counts more, and the province of Gauteng with 20 counts more, and the rest of the provinces recorded decreases. And overall, for the country, we had 740 counts less of robbery at non-residential premises, a 14.0% decrease. Then the top 5 stations in terms of robbery at non-residential premises are led by Johannesburg Central, which recorded 12 counts more, Devon Central 3 counts more, Madeira 33 counts more, East London 19 counts less, Kempton Park 8 counts more, making up the top 5 stations in terms of robbery at non-residential premises. Then cash in transit, we had decreases in the month of April and May of 3 and 1, and then we had an increase in the month of June of 4 counts, and then together they sum total end up at 0, meaning that we had the same counts of robberies of cash in transit in the previous quarter as in the current quarter. That is 60 counts in both the quarters, resulting in a 0% change. The provinces that recorded increases was the province of the Eastern Cape, 1 count more, Free State, 1 count more, KwaZulu-Natal, 1 count more, and then Limpopo and KwaZulu-Natal recorded 4 counts each more. And then the province that recorded a decreases was the province of Gauteng with 7 counts less, Northwest 2 counts less, and the Western Cape 2 counts less. Then the circumstances around the cash in transit, we had 28 incidents where the cash in transit robbery happened as a cross payment, whereby 6 of these incidents were in the provinces of Limpopo, Natal, and the Eastern Cape, 5 counts in the Gauteng, 4 counts in Western Cape, and 1 in Mpumalanga. And when the armored vehicle was on the road, we had 27 counts, whereby 7 were in Eastern Cape, 5 in Gauteng, 5 in KwaZulu-Natal, 4 each in Limpopo and Mpumalanga, and 1 each in the Northwest and the Free State. And in all incidents whereby But however method the armored vehicle was stopped, it was bombed to get access to the vehicle. When it was shot at in 13 incidents to gain access to the cash, the vehicle was bombed. In 3 incidents, the armored vehicle was shot at. In 6 incidents, it was collided or bumped into. Or 4 incidents, it was blocked. And in all these incidents, bombs were used to gain access to the cache. Then this is just a breakdown of which we have already touched on. Then going to truck hijacking, we had an increase in the month of April of 9 counts more, followed by 2 9 counts decreases in the month of May and June. Then the provinces that recorded increases was the province of...
Hey, life has changed, and so is being human. It's not clean cut, is it, Stacey?
Not exactly.
I mean, it's not about having all the answers.
It's being brave enough to figure them out.
It's about taking that leap, isn't it?
Yep. And having something to fall back on, just in case.
You're that person who isn't afraid to try something new, aren't you?
That goes without saying.
Does it challenge you?
And we have also observed instances most recently whereby the perpetrators now prefer to rob the congregants while the church sermon is continuing. These numbers were extracted from a sample size of 14,337. Then we also looked at the core diversion, that are instances whereby police resources are required to police some of these instances. We had 1,300 incidents which required police intervention, which were deemed to be peaceful. And we also had 526 which required police attention, which were 526. And most of these were in the province of Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, both peaceful and unrest related. Then this slide gives a holistic overview or a comparison in terms of the national figure that we had already indicated, and give the provinces so that one can see at a glance what were the numbers that were reported in that particular province compared to the national. And the color code indicates whether that particular province had recorded a decrease or an increase in terms of that particular crime. Like, for instance, in Mpumalanga, Northern Cape recorded 90 counts of murders, which is higher than what was reported in the previous court. Then so are all the other crimes that are indicated here. Then is the similar explanation as in the previous slide. And then on this slide, we look at the total number of crimes that had increased within that particular province. and those that have decreased in the particular province. For Mpumalanga, we had 12 crimes that had increased and 5 were decreasing. And then we also indicate which of the crimes had increased and decreased by using the color code red or green. Then the bottom there, we had for the Republic of South Africa, the increases and decreases. We had 7 of the crimes that had increased in the current quarter, and 10 of the crimes have recorded decreases. And again, we indicate using the color code whether that particular crime has decreased or increased. Like, for instance, for the Republic of South Africa, we had a decrease in murder. It is indicated with green. Attempted murder increased, and then it is indicated with a red. Then on this slide, we tried to come up with the stations which had the highest number of crimes that had increased. In a way, we were trying to kind of come up with a proxy for stations that might be deemed as non-performing stations. Like, for instance, in Kakamas and Roodepoort, we had 16 of the crimes having increased, and in Kakamas we had 15 of the crimes increasing, and only 1 of the crimes decreasing. And this in Roodepoort was burglary at the business premises, and in Kakamas it was a commercial crime. And that is the last of the slide. And then the full quarterly release presentation will be made available on the SAPS website using the hyperlink. I thank you.
Thank you, General, for that presentation. I guess members know that as a norm, we're still going to have a thorough discussion of the crime statistics. Here, we're just getting highlights. I'll therefore allow members to ask at most 3 questions each, and we'll see how far we go, taking into consideration that we will still have a chance to discuss in detail those crime statistics. Honorable Sheikh Imam, followed by Honorable Whitfield, followed by Honorable Meshwe, then Honorable Majosi. At most 3. You are not forced to ask 3, but at most 3.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and allow me to thank the Minister, Deputy Minister, Commissioner, and the Department for their presentation. Very quickly, could you tell us how many arrests has there been made on deaths of police officers in the country? That's the first thing. The second thing is this: it is very clear that alcohol and drugs plays a major role in crimes that are committed. What additional interventions are you making? Like, for example, speaking to local authority, restricting the opening times of taverns and things of that nature so that we could deal with them. Could you tell us how many arrests has been made in light of the fact that last year 91,000 children gave birth to children? And we know in many instances it's statutory rape, if you see what's happening even in the schools. So if you can just tell us what you're doing about that and how many arrests have been made. Plenty more, we'll discuss it in the next meeting. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Honorable Whitfield.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you to SAPS for the presentation. I think I just want to highlight the fact, Chair, that in the last quarter, there was 1 police killing every 3 days. And this is an indicator of a society that no longer respects the rule of law. And I want to just pay my condolences to the families of those police officers and to the senior management of SAPS. I think we need to acknowledge that there's an attack on the state from violent criminals and obviously on the citizens of the country. And I think this just underscores the importance of adopting a whole of society approach. And as we see in the crime statistics, South Africans are increasingly unsafe in their own homes. And so my question really for feedback at the next meeting, Chair, is how SAPS's Community in Blue policing strategy is working, and how we are actually capacitating CPFs. The other question, Chair, is it would be useful for us to get a report, and I don't expect the feedback now in this meeting, but a report from SAPS in terms of enforcement of the Liquor Act insofar as illegal liquor outlets, taverns, shebeens, and any other establishments in our communities. And then lastly, Chairperson, the third point that I wanted to raise is that not only are South Africans feeling increasingly unsafe in their homes, our children go to school and are subjected to the most horrific forms of crime. And I would be interested in getting a feedback from SAPS with respect to their collaboration with the Department of Education and what strategies are in place to assist the Department of Education to support our